Welcome to a Neon Jazz interview with a very fine drummer and a leader in the Kansas City jazz scene, Mr. Abel Ramirez. For over 3 decades, Abel has been tirelessly entertaining this Kansas City jazz town. During the course of our interview, Abel talked about his early years in KC, projects over the years, advice he would give to up-and-comers, along with many other insights into his life and love of jazz. Dig it. First of all, I want to start at the alpha of your life in this interview, and I want to ask, where were you born and raised?
I was born in El Paso, Texas, but I was raised in Kansas City.
How long were you in El Paso?
Oh, I was only a year old when we left.
Okay. So your formative years of really falling in love with jazz was here in Kansas City?
Absolutely.
What was it about this town that infused the love of jazz for you?
Well, the energy. The town has an energy level that is, it's captivating. It really is. The musicians all they love what they do, and you can tell.
So, when did you start playing the drums the first time?
First time. I guess I was 9 years old, and my dad took me to Liven's Music on Main Street, and they're still there, by the way.
Yeah.
Bought me a set of drums, and that's when I started.
So, talk to me about your family. How influential were they in your life with playing music?
Yeah, my grandmother played piano. My mother played piano. And my grandmother was an excellent reader, and my mother played by ear. And I think what we would do is, when I was young, we would sit around the TV set and watch Lawrence Welk. My mom loved Lawrence Welk. She couldn't dance, but loved Lawrence Welk.
Right on. So, talk to me about getting to a point where you started playing professionally or wanted to aspire playing professionally. You started young playing the drums. Did you play through school, after school? Kind of give me a lineage of where we're at as you started getting into playing professionally.
In high school, I was in band in high school, and then left there and started playing around town. Well, I went to college. It was, at the time, it was called junior college, believe it or not. It was called Kansas City, Missouri Junior College. Mm-hmm. And I was going there, and I got called to go on the road. And I took it. And I went on the road for about 3 or 4 years and loved it and got tired of it. And then I came back to Kansas City. And I mean to tell you what, the town was hopping. I'll never forget, I went to hear Mr. Greg Mize at a place called Hattie's on Southwest Boulevard. And when I got there about 9 o'clock, and the place was empty. And I asked the waitress, I said, I don't understand, when's the band playing? And she said, they don't start till 11. They go from 11 to 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
And I said, wow, that's great. And so, anyhow, I left and I came back, and the place was just hopping. And I loved it. Greg Mize was B3, is a wonderful B3 player here in Kansas City.
Yeah.
And had a lot of fun hearing him, listening to him.
Wonderful. So, you've talked about how Kansas City is an alluring town. It's obviously a jazz mecca. When you think about, let's just say about the heyday on 18 and Vine, what really is the most intriguing thing to you about this town being the jazz mecca that it is?
Boy, that's a good question. I really didn't hang around 18th and Vine area. I went directly to playing clubs, and we were the ones that. Well, let me explain. After I met Greg Mize, I joined his band, and we were playing jam sessions, and we were playing. We had a contract to play at Eddie South for a year at a time, and then on Sundays we'd do jam sessions. And I'll never forget people like that would come in and sit in, and Bobby Watson.
Wow.
Come in and sit in with us, and just lots of people here in town, and I stayed pretty busy, so I really didn't. Well, I wasn't really taught in college, or I didn't hang out at UMKC or any of that. Pretty well self-taught.
Yeah. So, talk to me about the projects and bands that you've been involved with over the years. I see the Four Aces, the Four Lads, the Coasters. There's a long list. Kind of give me a synopsis of who you played with, and kind of some of your experiences over the years being a professional musician.
Oh, sure. Like I said, I played with Greg Mize when I got back in Kansas City, and for 2 or 3 years. Then I joined Mike Ning, and was with him for about 2 or 3 years. And then I went with a gentleman by the name of Robert Symes, Bob Symes, played piano, who introduced me to big band. And Bob had a wonderful 18-piece band and a 7-piece band, and that's where I started really getting into reading. And I worked really hard at it, and eventually had an opportunity to put a reading rock and roll band together, and got called to play behind like the Platters and the Four Lads and the Four Aces and Bobby Lewis, a lot of the 1950s acts, and they would put music in with them, and we would do an hour rehearsal, and then we'd do the show. And I had guys with me like Wayne Hawkins on piano. I even had Stan Kessler with me at one point.
Yeah.
The other guys have gone on, moved. Ed Nichols on bass, but we had a great time doing all that. And after, back then it was crazy. We were, like I said, we were playing a lot. Almost, it seems today that is matching up to what we were playing back then.
Yeah.
Except for that we were playing, 6 nights a week at the same place.
Right. Where were your favorite places to gig back then?
Oh, favorite places. Good question. Eddie South was the main staple when I worked with Greg Mize, and I'll never forget Mr. Eddie talking to Greg, and said, "Greg, let's keep them dancing.
Mm-hmm.
Not dancing, they're not drinking.
Yeah.
Drinking, you don't have a job."
Yeah.
That stuck with me. Always did.
Yeah.
And so that's why I decided to play dance music. Pretty much.
And where are you gigging these days?
These days, I just finished up playing with the big band at a place called Finnegan's Hall, which is the old buffet.
Yeah.
Up in North Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
We're up there for like a year and a half, and so I'm looking for a new location to take the big band. Meanwhile, I'm got my own trio, and we play at some of the ballrooms around town, and have a lot of fun with that.
Wonderful. What about recording? Have you had a lot of sessions recording with either you as a soloist or in other bands?
No, I never recorded, well, except for with the big band, and but recording the big band is just so expensive. You can only do little at a time.
Now, who are some of your jazz heroes? Who's influenced you the most?
I'm very lucky. I grew up listening to Lena Horne, and Lena had a wonderful drummer with her. His name is Grady Tate, and Grady, I followed his career quite a bit, and listened to him, and I loved what he did and how he did. And I got to meet him, and one day he came into Kansas City with the New York Jazz Quartet, and played at the Crown Center.
Cool.
Yeah, that was quite amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you this. If you could go back in time and meet one jazz musician, alive or not with us anymore, who would it be and why?
It would be Gene Krupa. And I'm astonished with the kind of energy levels that he had, along with people like Buddy Rich. I did get to meet Buddy Rich, and I got to meet Bo Spelsom. But Gene Krupa was the one that got away.
Yeah.
And would love to have sat and chatted with him.
So, what kind of advice would you give to a young musician, let's say a drummer that wants to get into jazz, wants to be a scener? What advice would you give them now that you've had years under your belt as a live musician and you've seen the scenes for some years here in town? What would you tell them that would be sage advice?
I would tell them, never forget your roots. Always practice, first of all. Second of all, work with the older guys, work with the older cats, watch them, learn from them, ask questions. It's amazing what you can learn.
Yeah, indeed. So, does Abel Ramirez live with any regrets?
Any regrets? No, I do not. No, I've done exactly what I wanted to do.
If you had to sum up who you are, who would that be?
Who am I? I am old school. I am always wanting to learn new things, so new school's not too far.
Finally, actually, this is the final question here. How do you think the Kansas City scene is doing in 2013? How do you feel about it?
Oh, I love it. I think the times are going to get a lot more exciting. I think this town's going to open up even more. I think the musicians are going to experience a lot of things coming into Kansas City. The venues are going to be opening up more and more. I'm excited what I see coming in, and I'm excited seeing some of the youngsters getting into it and really taking it to another level, which I love.
Yeah. It seems to me as though we're going through a renaissance in this town, kind of as history is kind of a carousel that goes around. We're getting back on kind of a heyday of things really popping around here. And it also seems to me that there was kind of a panic a little bit after the Jardines incident happened, and it seems like in the wake of that, it's just made this town stronger for live music.
That's true. And I believe that it's being able to appreciate a nightclub that plays jazz is on everyone's mind, and they need to keep audiences and growing. And all the clubs that have jazz, I see clubs like what's the Green Lady that's downtown that's really opening up. There's Take Five down south, wonderful clubs that are just opening up for straight ahead youngsters that are just really wailing.
Perfect. Abel, hey man, thanks for taking your time out. It was a pleasure talking with you.
Well, hey, Joe, thank you very, very much.
Thank you, sir. Continued success, and hopefully our paths will intertwine at some point.
It will. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to yet another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players in Kansas City making jazz move. And thanks to Abel for his time and his story. If you would like to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino on the iTunes Store or visit the Neon Jazz web home, theneonjazz.blogspot.com, for everything Neon Jazz. Until next time, enjoy the music, my friends.
Neon Jazz.